Hi, it's Penny here, and today we're going to be putting together my TBR for the month of August, so all the books that I'm planning to read in August. And as usual, I am going to use my TBR machine website that I made that spits out random reading prompts to pick some prompts from my TBR. Now, I think I showed last time my TBR now is getting very short, so we might change things up a little bit. This is pretty much all the books that I showed you last time, but I actually have this one as audiobook. And then as well, this one, this is the third book in the series. I'm actually up to the second one, so I'm using this as a stand-in for the second one, which I can get on ebook, so I'll probably read it like that. But I'm counting it as a TBR book because otherwise I'm never going to get to this third one. So the other thing I think that's relevant before we pick any books is in the month of August, we essentially have 5 weeks. However, last month when I was planning my July TBR, I already planned the first week as part of July. So we take that off, we end up with just 4 weeks left. And then each week I am trying to read 1 physical book and 1 audiobook. I think that's realistic. We're trying to make these TBRs realistic now. And I do already have 1 book waiting for me at the library, as well as 2 audiobooks from series, including that one I just threw over there. And as well, I need to fit in another book from my Cosmere reread. So like basically half the slots are already filled. But I'm going to use the TBR machine to pick books for all the other slots, including the audiobooks, because like I tried to pick some audiobooks without any kind of guidance, and honestly I don't know how mood readers do it, like just pick a book in the spur of the moment. I can't do it. I get way too overwhelmed. I had a look at my list of to read books in Goodreads and I was like, there are so many books I can't pick. So that's part of why I like the TBR machine, is it kind of reduces the books I can select from and makes the decision easier for me. So we're going to do 4 prompts. I think I'll just do 4 prompts, and if I can pick a book off my TBR, I will until I've got 2, and then if not, I'll do audiobooks. That's the plan. Audiobooks is going to be a little bit hard because it does depend on what I can get my hands on. Mostly I get audiobooks through the library. I do also have a few Audible credits, but I kind of like to save those for when there's books I really want to read but I can't get through the library. So we'll see. Anyway, let us pick the first prompt. Read a secondhand book. So I think almost everyone on the list except for this one are secondhand. And because I'm trying to keep things easy for myself, I'm going to pick In My Father's Den by Maurice G. So this is a New Zealand author. I did talk previously about trying to keep my New Zealand authors for like a New Zealand author reading vlog. Honestly, I can't read enough books to really make that work at the moment, so I'm just going to pick these up rather than putting them off. This, I think, is some kind of like thriller about a young girl found murdered and her teacher being suspected of the murder. It has been made into a film as well, so I might try and get my hands on the film. But I guess I'm going to put this one onto the TBR. Then let us pick the second prompt. Read a book that intimidates you. So if I'm honest, from this pile here, I think I would pick this one, Skydancer by Witi Ihimaera. So this is a New Zealand author. I think this is kind of like a historical fiction. Historical fiction is something I really struggle with, so I think that's why I keep putting this off, even though I've put it on my TBR before. I think it might have a fantastical element, but I'm not really sure. It's something about like a young girl comes on holiday to New Zealand, and then there's a threat facing the town and the birds of the forest, and some old Maori woman somehow fits into it. I don't really know. But I guess we're going to put it on the TBR. And then now I guess we're going to do the much more difficult thing, which is to pick 2 audiobooks. If some prompts come up where it makes sense to swap things around, I'm going to swap things around. So let us pick the third prompt. Read a book released in 2019. At least it should be easier to find something available at the library from 2019, because I think I was looking yesterday at ones that were new releases and like the hold lists are very long. And I did put some holds on some things, so that'll sort out my audiobooks for future months, but not for this month. Anyway, 2019, let's see what we can find. Okay, I'm just going to go with the first one that I found available, because otherwise I'm going to get really sick of searching things on the library website. But what I've found is The Pursuit of William Abbey by Claire North. I've actually forgotten what it's about. Let me read. It's something about an English doctor in South Africa in the 1880s. A child dies and the mother curses him, and now the shadow of this dead boy is following him, and if it catches him, someone he loves will die, so he just has to keep moving. Claire North wrote the first 15 lives of Harry August, which I really liked. It's like a time loop kind of story. And I think in general, Claire North has some really cool concepts. I've been meaning to read some more by her, so this will be the one. Okay, and then we will pick our final prompt for our last audiobook. Read a book written by multiple authors. Well, there's none on my TBR that fit that anyway, so I think the prompts actually worked out pretty good because there's no 2019 books on this pile either. Well done, Penny, well done. But multiple authors might be hard to find. Okay, actually, I know which one I'm going to put on this list, but it might be a bit of a stretch as to whether the library will deliver it on time. But I want to put The Grimoire of Grave Fates on here. So this is like a short story anthology, but I believe all the short stories are like set in some kind of magic school where there's been a murder on campus. And I think the stories all fit together, but they're all written by different authors. Now, my hold at the library does say it's going to take 8 weeks to come through, but sometimes, in fact, usually, those estimates are overestimates. So maybe it'll come in time for me to read it in the last week. Maybe. I hope so, because I actually think short story anthology is the best way to crack this prompt. So those are going to be all the books that I'm reading because of the TBR machine. Now let me just tell you about the other 4 books that are filling the other slots in my reading plan for the month. Firstly, the book that I will be getting from the library is Bunny by Mona. Oh, I've never said her name before. Awad? Oh no, I've heard that name a million times and I don't even know how to say it. I'll need to fix that. But anyway, Bunny is a very strange story about this girl who goes to this like creative writing class, university or something, and all the other girls there are very cliquey and they all call each other Bunny, and at first she thinks they're really strange, but then she kind of gets involved in the group, and I expect things get even stranger from there. To be honest, I have had this slightly spoilt for me by a booktuber that I'm somewhat mad at. I try really hard not to spoil people. I know it is sometimes hard to know where that line is, but for a book like Bunny, I think it's pretty clear that certain things are a spoiler. Anyway, I think I'll still enjoy it, and I'm really wanting to read it before I get spoiled even worse. So hopefully I'm going to be in love with it like so many other people. I really like strange dark academia type books with a fantastical element. Not sure this has the fantastical element I'm looking for, but maybe it'll be dark enough to keep me happy anyway. Then the other physical book I will be reading is this one, so The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. This is the 3rd book in the Mistborn trilogy. So in this series, the Lord Ruler has been like a dictator ruling the world for like hundreds of years, and we're following this group that tries to undertake this heist in order to overthrow him. It does really build on itself, and of course by the 3rd book, that's not really what's happening at all. As well, the people in this group have these Mistborn powers, which basically means they can consume metals and then gain certain abilities depending on the metals, and certain people can burn different types of metals and access different powers. There's also actually a lot more other magical things going on in this world, and the way it all comes together is really great. I've actually read this series before and I really love it, and I remember this 3rd book blowing my mind, so I'm really looking forward to rereading it. Then the other 2 audiobooks that I have. Firstly, I have In the Ruins by Kate Elliott. So this is the 6th book in the Crown of Stars series. I do have the physical book here, but as I've said before, I struggle with getting through these a bit. I can't really say why. Something about Kate Elliott's writing style, and since I discovered the audiobooks are just being released now, even though this book is like from the 90s. What's the release date? Oh, 2005. So I think it took her a while to get this one out, maybe. Late 90s, early 2000s. This one is actually shorter than the previous book. Like the books in the series were getting bigger and bigger until this one, thank goodness. So there's this one, and then the next book, the 7th book, is the last one. So I've almost made it through. Such a hard series to talk about, like a lot of epic fantasies. There are people fighting over the throne. There's also this sort of impending cataclysm related to these magical beings and like other magical dimensions. There's people using dark magic, and there's also all these other fantastical creatures, like pretty much everything you can think of. Dragons, goblins, mermaids, centaurs, like lots of really great things going on in this book series. I do really love it. I really think things are going to come together in these last 2 books in a really exciting way, and I am looking forward to it. So actually this is shaping up to be a great reading month, to be honest. Then the last audiobook that I want to be reading is A Lion Among Men by Gregory Maguire. So this is the 3rd book in the Wicked quartet. So Wicked is a Wizard of Oz retelling, except it's told sort of from the perspective of the Wicked Witch of the West. The 2nd book kind of follows her son And then the third book, I think, is going to follow the lion. He's very different in the books than he is in like the movie or the original stories. And I think what I really love about the series is how Gregory Maguire just takes like the original story of Oz and then does so much world building to turn it into a story that feels like it could be real. Things can be quite dark in these books, but I really like the themes of inequality and I guess the way that it looks at leadership and religion. So I'm really looking forward to reading this third book. This is actually a reread as well because I read this series about 20 years ago, but because 20 years ago was so long ago, it kind of doesn't feel too much like a reread because I remember almost nothing. In fact, I'm pretty sure that most of what I remember from this series was from the first book. So anyway, I'm looking forward to reading this a lot. So lots of great books in the month of August. Do let me know whether you've read any of these books and whether you think I'm going to like them, and let me know what you're excited to be reading in August. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you are doing well, and I will see you next time.